During World War II, the Nazis carried out a systematic extermination of millions of European Jews. When the war ended, thousands of survivors undertook the hazardous journey to Palestine to begin a new life.
I grew up with an image of Israel as a nation that could do no wrong. I believed that after the horrors of the Holocaust, the Jewish people had suffered enough and were entitled to peace in their land. But as time passed, I began to understand that there was a side to Israel that had been left out of the history books. I heard terrible accounts of massacres and other violations inflicted upon the Palestinian population. The reports were always difficult to believe. I had been taught that Palestinians were terrorists, and I couldn't accept that a nation born out of suffering could inflict more suffering upon others without a valid reason. But the sad and disturbing stories continued to haunt me, until eventually I had to come and see for myself.
Say for the Israeli people, if they just really want peace, they must give us our land, our freedom, and that's it.
Travelling in the West Bank Territory for the first time, I was a total stranger in what was to me a mysterious new culture with a different set of rules that needed to be respected. Everywhere I went, I found that Palestinians were extremely warm and very welcoming and were always willing to go to great lengths to help.
We are humans. We want to live. I want to see my children go to schools every morning while I feel they will come back safe.
But I was entering a country that had been torn apart and strangled by years of bitter conflict. The economy was almost at a standstill and unemployment was high.
We are living here in a bad situation. We are very sad here.
I hope that my husband will go to work and come back not worried, not complaining. I couldn't sell anything today. I'm not sure if I can tomorrow buy the food, the bread even.
It seemed a chaotic world filled with rubbish and tragic memories. And I soon learned that beneath the welcoming smiles lay countless stories saturated with sadness and trauma from people struggling to live a normal life under occupation.
In 1989, the Western world breathed a sigh of relief when the Berlin Wall fell, and again when the apartheid system collapsed in South Africa. But on the 16th of June 2002, the same world remained largely indifferent when Israel began building a fence around the West Bank.
The real lesson of the Holocaust for Jews is a craving for security. And they have turned security into a kind of god. This terrible fence or wall which is being built next to here, cutting off this land from the village to which the land belonged, as long as the government can convince the Israeli public that this is for security, this will stop suicide bombers from coming into Israel, it's the end of the debate. Because if it's for security, it's automatically accepted by almost all Israelis. So when we come and say this is not really for security, this is for annexation, this is for taking away the land, it is a very difficult task to convince the Israeli public of this, because what they hear is security, 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 security.
The barrier stands 8 meters high and runs for 650 kilometers around the West Bank. Within built-up areas, it's a solid concrete wall. Across the open countryside, it's an electrified fence and includes 2-meter-deep trenches, roads for patrol vehicles, electronic ground sensors, thermal imaging cameras, sniper towers and razor wire. Movement out of the territory is controlled through a number of military checkpoints and gates. Israel maintains that the fence is a temporary structure designed to protect Israeli citizens from suicide attacks. But close to 90% of its route runs deep into Palestinian territory, resulting in massive land confiscation and aiding the annexation of Israeli settlements. Thousands of olive trees have been destroyed, along with hundreds of Palestinian homes and other buildings such as shops, factories, schools and greenhouses. In places, the wall totally encircles towns and divides communities, adding to transport costs and making it almost impossible for Palestinians to reach their schools or workplaces. Many farmers have been cut off from their farms. Rich agricultural land and essential water wells that once belonged to Palestinians are now on the Israeli side of the barrier.
The fence separated my land. The first part consists of the 2 dunams and the 3 dunams after the fence.
Despite the 2004 International Court of Justice decision that called for removing the barrier and compensating affected communities, the construction of the wall has accelerated.
I was stationed in many different areas in the West Bank. I spent altogether about 7 months in active duty. And, I, as a self-declared leftist and, open-minded individual, wanted to come here and see for myself what really goes on and make a difference.
I travelled along the security fence as it snaked its way from Bethlehem to Calandia, deeply troubled by what I saw. The barrier cut through the urban landscape, isolating communities, exuding an air of oppression rather than any feeling of reconciliation. Under the 1949 Geneva Convention, the use of collective punishment is a war crime. Article 33 specifically states that a person shall not be punished for an offence he or she has not personally committed. Israel refuses to abide by this ruling and has openly adopted the use of collective punishment in the West Bank. The security fence is a prime example. While it stands, any talk of peace is merely a smokescreen for the true nature of Israel's intentions.
It's obvious that people have really struggled here, and it's a really hard place to be in some ways, because you really feel that, and you feel how people are cut off. But at the same time, I think in Belaine there's more hope than most places. It's become kind of an epicenter of non-violent resistance in Palestine. I don't know if anyone knows for sure if things are going to change here. But the only thing there really is to know, I think and Belizean people say that to me, is like we have to do something, you know? If we don't try, like what are we? What are we doing here? Just letting this happen to us, letting us like be caged into these ghettos.
Free Palestine!
This is a demonstration against the wall where we are standing now. In a few weeks there will be a wall 8 meters high, cutting off more than 2/3 of the lands of this village.
Opposition to the fence is gradually increasing within Israel itself. Every week, hundreds of concerned Israelis travel to villages like Belin and stand side by side with Palestinians and internationals to demonstrate against its construction.
Every year, Jews for the last 2,000 years are lighting candles to commemorate the Jewish holiday of Hanukkah, this struggle for freedom and independence against foreign rule. But what is happening now is that the settlers who are now occupying Palestinian land and stealing it, and we have come here to express solidarity with the Palestinians who are fighting non-violently to keep their land.
I always thought it was more damaging to refuse orders than it was to perform an order which goes contradictory to your own opinion. Because in the end, we're talking about an army, and while what's going on in territories right now might not be an existential threat to Israel, or to any country, if there was suddenly a war which would be an existential threat to Israel, soldiers refusing orders would be a death sentence for the country.
The soldiers you've seen are mostly border police, which are regarded as the more brutal, less understanding, and also they're built of, most of them are of lower socioeconomic levels, and this is very related. They're kind of, the oppressed are being the oppressors.
With people like us, what we carrying, our belief that this is our land, whatever they build, the security or the fence, we will gain it. And I'm sure one day they will go back home, but I don't know what they will say for their kids. We were fighting farmers, civilian people.
There are a lot of Jews, people, individuals, have good-hearted, have soft-hearted, and they have care for us, and they are standing by us. We have to admit this fact. But as I told you, we are talking about the administration, about the governments, about the leaders. There are still also among the Jews people who know that this is wrong what's going on, and this is unjust, and we must try to put an end for this conflict and to come back together.
Movement within the West Bank is restricted by a shifting network of military checkpoints and barricades. More than 80 manned checkpoints block the roads between Palestinian cities, choking the Palestinian economy and splintering the West Bank into separate enclaves.
When you go with your kids, with your wife, and you reach a military point, you see soldiers always looking at you, hanging with the guns over you. What it means? It means a kind of terror. So, the source of terror is not Palestinians, it's inside the Israeli mind.
Military checkpoints are places where Palestinians are continually harassed and humiliated. They are a constant reminder that the Israeli occupation has total control over their lives.
Every day you have to think, how can I reach my work? How can I reach my university?
Immediately if you close a checkpoint, it affects the acutely ill. They can't get through. What you can't so easily count is the number of school days lost and the number of work days lost, and the effects of disrupting a child's education for 5 years. Well, the effects are obvious on a farming community. If they can't get to their land, their crops rot on the field, and that's their whole money gone for a year.
You will see like a teenager soldiers holding guns, showing them like they have the powers to control, to do whatever they want. Even if you are an old woman, they don't allow for you. Even if you are American citizenship or Australian or European at some time, they don't allow for you to pass through the checkpoint. They want to show you that their power, we have the power, we can control everything.
Palestinians are regularly herded into tiny spaces where they are forced to wait before being allowed to pass. They can be detained for hours for no reason. Their goods and personal belongings can be searched, confiscated or destroyed. They can be arrested, shackled and blindfolded, then taken to interrogation centers and held without charge.
Every single level of Palestinian civilization is being fragmented by Israel.
They don't want us to think that we are part of historical Palestine or to have another relation with the other cities, because they want to separate our area to cantons.
Pregnant women in labor have been denied free access to hospitals. Ambulances transporting emergency cases are often denied free passage through checkpoints.
Although we have a patient with chronic renal failure, he needs urgent hemodialysis and we have to arrive to Ramallah as soon as possible, although they didn't enable us to pass.
A lot of patients died on checkpoints. They would stay for 4, 5, 6 hours waiting for the soldier to give permission to the ambulance to pass. And maybe on the way you pass the first checkpoint, the second checkpoint will stop you.
Palestinian students face restrictions traveling to and from schools or universities. Checkpoint closures often prevent students from attending classes for days at a time.
The Israelis try to undermine education, and it's an ongoing thing, and the students certainly experience it, trying to get to class every day. Have a lot of students arrive late and they'll tell me there was a roadblock or students can't come because of a roadblock or a checkpoint.
They don't want people to be here. So this is at all the universities. You know, you hear again and again, they don't let students through checkpoints, they take student IDs, then they can't travel. You know, not letting teachers, faculty from other parts of Palestine get here to teach their classes. Whatever they can do to make people not want to be here, they consider successful.
It has often been said that the first casualty of war is the truth. This war is no different in that respect. So much of what happens in the West Bank is clouded with misinformation or simply ignored. Each day, Palestinians are forced to suffer under occupation in countless numbers of small ways that aren't sensational enough to make media headlines. But day after day, year after year, the effect is devastating. I was travelling from Nablus to Ramallah. It was a trip that normally took 40 minutes, but already there had been long delays at both Huwara and Zaatra checkpoints, extending the journey to over 4 hours. Riding in the taxi beside me was a school teacher, anxious to reach his class on time. But he was a Palestinian from Farah refugee camp north of Nablus. By the time we reached the third checkpoint, his travelling permit had expired.
Right now you can't go through, I'm sorry. You have to turn back. Everybody else can keep on going.
I crossed all
I understand it. Please turn back. You see there's a lot of problems in here. Please go on. Everybody else can keep on going.
Please do me a favor.
I understand. I can't do you a favor. Please go on.
Please, Khayal. Please. This time.
I can't go through. Kadima.
What do I do now?
Occupation, it's so hard to live under occupation, because they destroy your life, they destroy your feeling, they destroy your everything. Like if you are a student, you will feel khalas, you don't want to continue studying, because it's hard for you to study, you know, like you need the money for.
You go through the Army's whole education system in training and all this stuff, and you know, you learn this policeman mentality that, look, I might not like what I'm doing, but the reason why I don't like it is from the one cause that I just don't understand it, because I'm not a general, I'm not the prime minister, and I don't understand all the sides of this issue. And the fact that the prime minister is democratically elected, and you know, it's a democratic country theoretically, and everybody has a vote. So the things I'm being called upon to do theoretically, in the most theoretical sense, come from, you know, the fairest of all opinions after careful weighing of all sides, and that is why I'm being asked to do them. You know, in a very theoretical sense, that is the mentality that you have to take up, because otherwise, you know, you will fail as a soldier.
Over the past 3 decades of occupation in the West Bank, Israel has adopted a policy of planning that severely restricts Palestinians while allocating large areas of land to establish and expand Jewish settlements. Since East Jerusalem was annexed to Israel in 1967, the government of Israel's primary goal has been to reduce the number of Palestinians living in the city.
So in East Jerusalem, they took all these 70 square kilometers of land and they froze the planning.
The Palestinian residents of East Jerusalem are not citizens of Israel, only legal residents who must regularly prove connections to Jerusalem in order to continue to reside there.
What happens is that in order to apply for a building permit, a Palestinian has to pay $5,000.
As a consequence, many Palestinians are compelled to build without a permit.
A lot of people have applied again and again and again, and they just don't get building permits. There's also a lot of people that say, why bother, I'm not going to get it anyway.
Within East Jerusalem and areas of the West Bank under Israeli control, Israel has employed the strategy to demolish Palestinian houses built without a permit.
10,000 houses just in East Jerusalem have demolition order.
In the past 10 years, the authorities have demolished more than 2,200 residencies, leaving more than 13,000 Palestinians homeless.
Now you can see the bulldozers demolishing 2 houses, and they will continue demolishing maybe another 3 houses. And you can see the weather, you can see how hard is it to send families to the street while we are in winter.
It is arbitrary, so no one knows which house is next.
So if they told you that we will come and demolish your home after 24 hours, and you prepare yourself that they will come, then they will not come. Then you will sit inside your home again. Then suddenly they will come and surround the house, as you can see today. At 4 o'clock in the morning they come, or 5 o'clock they prepare themselves, and they come and they surround the area, and they give the family 15 minutes to take their belongings out of their house, and they start demolishing the home.
They are the owners of this land. Israel doesn't dispute the ownership of the land.
We have to pay them for the demolition even. The house is gone, and also you will be in minus because you have to pay the municipality the costing of the demolition.
So they can have the demolition order today and have the house demolished tomorrow, whereas the neighbor may have a demolition order for 10 years. That way you also crush the trust within Palestinian society, because Palestinians start thinking, why is this house standing for 10 years and mine just got demolished in 3 days after I received the demolition? Maybe my neighbor is a collaborator as well. If Palestinians are not united, then Israel can do anything it wants with them.
She sank to her knees and motioned me to raise my camera. All around us, the air echoed with incessant hammering as the machines destroyed her life, leaving nothing but a pile of twisted rubble that was once her home.
If you went to work every day of your life, not knowing if your house is going to be standing when you come back, that's a state of fear that is actually very difficult to imagine.
Afterwards, I walked back through the old city. It was an evening like any other. There was no hint of the insanity of what had happened only a few kilometers away. In the following weeks, Ariel Sharon slipped into a coma, and Israel welcomed in a new head of state.
Our aim here is not to confront these soldiers.
We are just asking for our freedom.
Our aim is just to block the bulldozer that destroying our land and uprooting our olive trees.
حتی اگه عوض باشه یه شبم واسط بس باشه بازم بهت دل میبازم با عشق برات پل میسازم تا که بیا به سوی من بشینی رو به روی من لبات به لبام بشینم دستات با من سفر برم
We don't want you to get injured.
I will not close my eyes from this world until I see free Palestine and see my kids playing freely and getting the life that we did not succeed to get.
بشینی رو بروی من لبات به لبهام بشینم دستت با من
Vast majority of all the army activities that are carried out in the West Bank are for the sake of the security of the settlers. That is the army's mandate in the West Bank. And that's something that I was told at every point, in my army service. Is you may not like what you have to do, but we are here to defend the settlers and we will defend them. You may not like the settlers, and in Arron we hated the settlers, but you were there to defend them. Doesn't matter what.
There are currently 121 Israeli settlements and approximately 102 outposts in the West Bank. These settlements support a population of up to 462,000 Jewish settlers, 40% of which live in the settlement blocks close to Jerusalem. Settlements are linked to Israel by an extensive network of Jewish-only bypass roads. Many settlements are located in strategic areas, capturing vital resources such as water and agricultural land. Settlers living in the blocks surrounding Jerusalem largely identify as economic settlers. Those who identify as ideological settlers are committed to staying on their land. These settlers regularly carry out violent attacks against Palestinians with complete legal immunity, often with the support of the military.
It's really hard life. You can see there is a settlers beside us, and there is the Palestinians here. Because of 10 families of the settlers, they closed all of the west to the Palestinians. The Palestinians must carry their bottle gas on their shoulders. They must carry their own goods to reach them to their houses, also by hand and on their shoulders. The students must go alone also, and there is no cars. But the settlers on the other side, it's allowed to them to drive their cars until they can reach their houses, but the Palestinians not. When you come here, and you can see what happened, when the settlers are attacking the Palestinians, the soldiers must protect the settlers, not protect the Palestinians.
The settlers are they are the unrestrained id of the Israeli psyche. Like, they have no constraints. And if you try to put a constraint on them, they'll spit in your face.
To accommodate the settlers in Hebron, a large part of the city has been closed to Palestinians.
They have got some soldiers, military army on top of there and on top of the other side to watch them and to protect them and to look after them day and night.
In general, being in Hebron is the situation where the army really is caught in the middle. With the Arabs being as extreme as they are, and the Jews being even more extreme, and the army kind of being there just trying as hard as they can to separate one side from the other, with little success. No matter what you do, you're hurting someone. You can step on the settlers' toes or you can step on the Arabs' toes, but in the end, you're just making the situation worse, and you feel like the army being there is a bad thing. But on the other hand, it would probably be an even more worse thing, to let the two sides kind of go at it. So in that situation, we were really caught in the middle, and there were a lot of crises of confidence and conscience among many of the soldiers in my unit, and people really did not know what to do because they felt they were wasting their time.
And I'll show you some of the rubbish and some of the garbage. The one they do throw it on top of us, we had to protect ourselves and to put some fence here on our shelves, not to let the stones and the garbage to come down on us.
I was arrested on the 19th of January in Tel Rameda. The police who arrested me are police that I've seen on almost a daily basis in Tel Rameda, and they know who I am. They've seen me working on the streets, they've seen me protecting Palestinians, they've seen me trying to intervene in settler attacks. These settlers who have attacked me, who have attacked Palestinians, who throw stones, nothing happens to them. The police and all their efforts and all their resources, they don't focus this on the settlers. Instead, they focus it on those of us who are trying to do what the police, in fact, should be doing.
They want us to be silent, to attack us and to be silent, to harass us and to be silent, to occupy our lands and to be silent.
They want to push us from here. They don't want anybody here. They want everybody to leave it, shopkeepers or people who live in houses.